Hi, thank you for joining me for another page of the Phyrexian Grimoire. Today, I wanted to quickly discuss the new Sonic the Hedgehog secret lair that just got spoiled. Now, they haven't really said when this is going to release, but I just wanted to go over a couple of the cards that I think are going to be extremely good in Commander as well as maybe other formats, because I'm fairly certain these are going to be multi-format legal. So to start with, I think the one that everybody is most excited for is Shadow the Hedgehog. He is, for 2 black and 2 red, a legendary hedgehog mercenary that is a 4/2 with haste. Whenever he or another creature you control with flash or haste dies, you draw a card. Now that ability on its own would be really good. Lots of haste creatures, they get in for combat damage once. Whenever they swing again, a lot of the times they end up dying. They're not very big creatures, so getting to draw a card after they die is a great ability. It also works great with some of the, in other formats, the Modern Horizons 2 elementals. So they have Evoke, some of them have Flash, and you can cast them for their Evoke ability by exiling another card of their color. So Solitude is going to be the one that I think gets played with this. It has Flash. Whenever you evoke it, it lets you exile a creature, and that person gains life equal to that creature's power. So it already has Flash. The evoke ability kills it as soon as it enters the battlefield, so you get to evoke it for free and then draw a card after it dies. I think that ability is going to be great with cards like that. Now, the second ability is probably the biggest thing on the card, Chaos Control. Each spell you cast has split second if mana from an artifact was spent to cast it. Now, split second is, as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. This effectively says your spell cannot be countered as long as mana from an artifact was spent to cast it. That's any artifact, so that's going to be Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Treasure Tokens, all of those. And I think that is going to be an extremely good ability. I think this is going to honestly see play in competitive Commander, because this ability is going to prevent people from interacting with any of your spells, as long as artifact mana was spent to cast it, which is extremely prevalent in competitive Commander. Now, while I think Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be the most prevalent card we see in Commander, all of the other ones also seem very interesting. So Sonic the Hedgehog is going to be probably very popular just because it's Sonic. It is a haste 2/4 for a Hedgehog Warrior instead of Mercenary. He is 1, a blue, a red, and a white. Whenever he attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with Flash or Haste, similar to how Shadow is. And whenever a creature you control with Shadow or Haste is dealt damage, not when they deal damage, but whenever they are dealt damage, you create a tapped treasure token. I don't think this one will be as good or see as much play except for people who really enjoy Sonic, but it is still a very good card. Miles Tails Prower is going to be 1, a white and a blue for a Fox Artificer with Flash and Flying. If a vehicle you control enters, you draw a card if it has Flying, otherwise you put a Flying counter on it. There are a lot of creatures that do similar things, where if you cast a spell, you draw a card if it has Flying or some other keyword. So it's just going to be kind of a more restrictive version of that, although it having Flash is going to make it so you can flash this in at end step of another player, and then still cast a vehicle while you control Tails. So that's going to be an interesting one. Dr. Eggman is also, I think, going to be one of the more interesting cards from the whole secret lair. For 2, a blue, black, and a red is a flying 3/6, so still a pretty good statted creature. At the beginning of your end step, you draw a card, then each opponent faces a villainous choice. Now there is a period between drawing the card and each opponent facing the villainous choice, so you will always draw the card. So the choice they make is that player discards a card, or you put a construct, robot, or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. Now it's going to probably be a more construct or robot heavy deck. Vehicles just aren't as good, especially in the Grixis colors of blue, black, and red. But I do think that this is going to be an interesting vehicle deck, especially now that there are going to be more vehicles that are more prevalent because of the rules change, being able to use them as a commander. Now, the next one that I think is going to be a very interesting card is Knuckles the Echidna. For a 2/4 Echidna warrior with double strike, trample, and haste, it's going to be a very good commander just to attack with. It's always basically going to deal 4 damage. Anytime you buff up its power, it's effectively going to buff it up by 2 with that double strike ability. So it's going to be a pretty good commander to just attack with. And then whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. So it is one or more creatures, so you will only ever get 1 treasure token. So you're not going to make a whole bunch of them, but those treasure tokens are going to add up for the treasure hunter ability at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 30 or more artifacts, you win the game. Now there is a dragon that does something similar to that. It is 20 or more artifacts, and it steals everybody's artifacts, to my knowledge, or it steals all the treasure tokens from everybody. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look up which card that is. So it's similar to that, but this one is a legendary creature that you can run in your command zone. So that'll be kind of an interesting way to build this deck. For mono red artifacts is a pretty good strategy. For Amy Rose, 2, a red and a white. For a haste 3/3, whenever Amy Rose attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment to her, and then up to 1 other target attacking creature gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is Amy Rose's power. So Amy Rose is going to buff at least the creature by 3, since her power starts at 3. But it's going to be another red-white equipment deck. There's a lot of those. I don't think this one's going to see as much play, but people like Sonic the Hedgehog, so I think that might just be enough for people to play Amy Rose. And then Super State is going to be an interesting one, I think, for the Niche Legacy deck. So Super State, I think, is going to be an interesting one for the Niche Legacy deck that is Academy Rector. Academy Rector is I think it is a 1/2 cleric, or it's a 1/1 cleric, if I can't remember off the top of my head. It's one of the two. For 4 mana, whenever it dies, you search your library for an enchantment card and put it directly onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. This one I think will be an interesting one. So you enchant a creature you control. It is a legendary aura. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 9/9 and has flying, first strike, trample, and haste. So already, after 2 fetch lands or any amount of additional damage, you're going to be attacking twice and killing people, and it gives it haste. So if you just played that creature this turn, you'll get an extra the ability to actually attack on the turn. So that's going to be nice. And then whenever the enchanted creature deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So unfortunately, in Legacy, that ability is not going to matter, but 9/9 flying, first strike, trample, and haste is going to be kind of a huge buff. And it's also a 7 mana enchantment that has no color requirements. It's going to be completely colorless, so it'll be easy to cast off of your Ancient Tombs and any sort of Mox Diamond. Obviously, Mox Diamond makes color mana of any color, or Chromox, so if you exile a card that's red, and you won't actually need any colored mana, so it won't matter if you have a red card under there or a white card under there, so it'll be pretty easy to cast, I think, in formats like that, as well as just being an interesting card for Commander. I think that's all that they've released. Here's going to be the pricing. It's going to be $39.99 for the non-foil and $49.99 for Rainbow Foil. Now, they are doing, a reprint Secret Lair for a bunch of equipments. So we're reprinting the Reaver Cleaver, Swiftfoot Boots, Mere Battle Sphere as an interesting one. It's a construct that you can cheat in with Dr. Eggman there. Hammer of Nazan, which is going to be a great pickup if you end up buying the Secret Lair. This one is $20 on its own. It might go down just a little bit with the printing here. Lightning Greaves gets reprinted a lot. Weatherlight will be a fun vehicle to cheat in with Dr. Eggman again. And then a 1/1 mirror token for the Egg Pawn here will be kind of fun. This one is going to be $29.99 for non-foil and $39.99 for foil. And then we also have the Chasing Adventure Secret Lair here. So they're printing Generous Gift, a good card for Commander. It's been phased out a little bit. That 3/3 green elephant can actually be a little bit bigger than you want it to be. It is target permanent though, so you do get to hit other people's lands if there are problem lands that you need to hit. Fabricate is going to be a big reprint here. Fabricate is going for about $10 or $15 on its own. So here, paying the price of $30 just for the whole secret layer, you're going to get basically a lot of the stuff for, half price. Open the Armory is a great card. It's not super expensive, but it's still a great card. Fabricate's kind of the big one here. Deadly Dispute, they just reprinted in Final Fantasy in that bonus sheet, so that one's not too expensive. Unexpected Windfall, very cheap card. The Soul Ring, I think people are going to really enjoy. Sonic fans are just going to buy this just to have it. And the Treasure Token will also be an interesting one. So again, $29.99 and $39.99 for these ones. That's kind of all I have to say about Sonic, but I did want to talk about some of the Edge of Eternity spoilers as well, since I'm already sitting here talking about spoilers. So the big one, I think, is going to be this Tezzeret Cruel Captain. For a 3 colorless mana Planeswalker, you get a legendary Planeswalker Tezzeret with a static ability. Whenever an artifact you control enters the battlefield, put a loyalty counter on Tezzeret. So that is enters the battlefield too, so it's not cast, so your treasure tokens are going to trigger that. Anything that you put in to the battlefield off of things like Urza Saga is going to trigger it. All tokens, but, cheating in artifacts is going to trigger this ability, as well as just casting your artifacts normally. For a 0 ability, you're going to be able to untap target artifact or creature. If it is an artifact creature, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So this is going to untap things like Grim Monolith and Basalt Monolith, great cards to untap because they don't untap themselves normally. Your untap step, as well as Mana Vault in CEDH. You can go turn 1 land, Mana Vault, cast Tezzeret, use the -0 ability to untap your Mana Vault, and because it's a -0 ability, you will never, you're not losing any loyalty on your Tezzeret, so you basically always get to use your Mana Vault. It's going to be extremely good there in things like CEDH, or if you just have a Mana Vault lying around and you have it in a deck. It's going to be a great card there. The -3 ability on a Planeswalker that starts with 4, so it's going to leave it at 1, it won't kill it immediately, so that's good. Search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it and put it in your hand, and then shuffle. So this is going to be pretty similar to Urza Saga's Final Chapter ability, where you get to search for an artifact with 1 or less. It doesn't put it directly on the battlefield, it does go to your hand, but unlike Urza Saga, you do get to find artifacts that have colored mana pips, so you'll get to find things like Portable Hole and any other colored mana artifacts. I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment. Portable Hole is kind of the big one, though. You get to basically Oblivion Ring something with mana value 2 or less for 1 white mana. It's a very good card, especially in things like Vintage. I think this is going to be an amazing Vintage card. And then it has a -7 emblem ability. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put 3 1/1 counters on an artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot artifact creature. I don't think many people are going to be doing this, but if you do end up getting it, that emblem is going to be very good if you can use your leftover Chrome Mox that you just have in your hand, turn that into a 3/3 creature and start hitting people with it. I think that's going to be a great ability in formats like Vintage, or even that scenario I talked about. You can turn your Mana Vault into a 3/3 creature and start hitting with that, and then you can use the 0 ability to untap your Mana Vault, since it wouldn't actually untap normally. Now, we are also getting Standard Legal Shocklands. This is going to be the first Standard Legal reprint of Shocklands since I think one of the original Ravnica sets. So it's going to be very interesting. Hopefully these are printed in large enough quantities that it'll actually take the price of these 5 Shocklands down to somewhere around $3 or $4 instead of it being about 10 or 15 for the more expensive one like Watery Grave or Breeding Pool. I think the least expensive one at the moment is Godless Shrine. They're all amazing lands. They have both basic land types. For this one, it's an island swamp. It enters the battlefield. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. So, and this is an as it enters the battlefield. You cannot respond to this by tapping it, just as a side note there. And I think the only other card that's worth talking about here are the Precon Commanders. These are the face commanders for the Precons. So we are getting a black, green, and red lands deck with Sazrel Genesis Shepherd for a 2/5 insect druid for 2 a black, a red, and a green. You get a flying insect Whenever you may play lands from your graveyard. Whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent during your turn, you put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Sazrel's power on up to one target creature. This is going to be a Crucible Worlds in your command zone. As well as, I think this commander will probably not be the commander people run for the face commander of the deck. I think the alternate commander will be the one that people run. This one is just 5 mana, and it's just a Crucible Worlds in the command zone. Crucible Worlds has plenty of effects that do that now. There's lots of cards that let you play lands from your graveyard. They just printed one in Duskmourn. It's a room enchantment. It's still 3 mana. It's still a really good card. Kilo Apogee Mind. For a blue, a red, and a white, you get a 3/3 Robot Artificer with haste. Whenever Kilo becomes tapped, you proliferate. Proliferate is choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind they already have there. Now, Proliferate is going to be great with things like Planeswalkers, 1/1 counters, and charge counters, and you can also use poison counters. They have printed a lot of Proliferate support. I'm not sure how much play this commander is going to see. If the other face commander is any better, I think that one will see more of the play, since I think this one they wanted to be less of a 1/1 counters deck, and this one is supposed to kind of be a robots deck. Then we have the Spacecraft subtype, which is going to be an interesting one. So here in the Sarima, you got a legendary artifact Spacecraft. When it enters, you search your library for a legendary creature card, you reveal it and put it into your hand, and then shuffle. For 3 mana, that's going to be a very good ability, just on its own. You don't even need any of the other text, but the other text is Station. You tap another creature you control. You put a number of counters on this Spacecraft equal to that creature's power. Then, if you have 7 or more, it becomes an artifact creature permanently. And if you have 7 or more, it gains flying, and other tapped legendary creatures you control have indestructible. So, a flying 5/5 that gives all of your other legendary creatures that are tapped indestructible is going to be an interesting one. You can run these as your commander now with the new rules change of being able to run legendary Spacecraft and vehicles in your command zone. So that is all I have to say about these topics here. So I just wanted to bring to your all attention about the Sonic the Hedgehog leaks. I think that Shadow is going to be a great card. That is the summary of my opinion there. And I think that the new Tezzeret Cruel Captain Planeswalker is going to be very interesting. If you open these, I feel like those are going to be the chase pull of the set. It says Tezzeret Cruel Captain. I didn't talk about Sathara the Super Void, but this one is going to be the serialized card that we are getting for this set. It is not very interesting to me, but I do enjoy Leyline of the Void more than I enjoy this. Leyline of the Void is free and not legendary. That does matter for games of Commander in my pods. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. These are interesting leaks. They are official leaks. I mean, this one is straight from the Wizards of the Coast website. This one was leaked during MagicCon Vegas this weekend, so that is just my quick thoughts on the subject. Thank you all for watching. That's going to be Phyrexian Grimoire. I'll catch you later. Thank you.